First of all, I'd just like to thank the Fatherhood Support Center for having me, and I sincerely thank them for all of the hard work they do. It's not a glamorous task that they do. They take guys who society has turned their back on, and they take 25 of them every 6 weeks, and they turn them into the best fathers and the best men that they can be. We as a society have decided that these guys don't deserve our attention, and Halbert Sullivan and Chester Deans have decided otherwise. So thank you to the Fatherhood Support Center. I think we should all give them a huge round of applause. Now, a little bit about myself. I'm 30 years old, and I've been practicing law now for almost 6 years. And I give most of my time for free to African-American families who get caught up in the criminal justice system or some other type of trouble, and they can't find their way out of it. My wife does the same thing. She's a public defender out here in St. Louis County. I was 28 years old when I decided to run for the Missouri House of Representatives. And I did it because I realized that I was helping one family or one kid or one person at a time, but they all had the same type of issues. They were all dealing with the same type of systemic poverty-based issues that they couldn't get out of on their own. And I realized that there were policy issues here that were bigger than just one family. We'll get to this later. That were bigger than just one family at any given time. So that's why I ran for the Missouri House of Representatives, to make sure that the people I was representing in the courtrooms in Missouri and Illinois would have an advocate when it came down to where their problems really, started, and that's on the policy level in Jefferson City, on the lawmaking level. For most of the people I knew in my barbershop and my church, I was the first black lawyer that they'd ever met, which was amazing to me, but I'm happy to help as much as I can. But people often ask, do you read a lot? Did you study all day? Are you a bookworm? Were you just born smarter? None of that is the case. The reason I was blessed to be where I am, and I hopefully continue to go, is because I have a father in my house. His name is Donald Calloway Sr. Every day, my dad got up, and he put on his clothes, and he went to a job. He woke up my brother, my sister, and I. He washed us up, and he went to go work. He went to a job. It wasn't until I was maybe 9 or 10, I realized that sometimes he was unemployed. But even when he was unemployed, he got up every single day, and he went out looking for work, and he went out to do the very best that he could to provide for his family. Even if he wasn't going to a job, he made sure that we saw he was getting up, getting out, and doing something to make a better way for us. So tomorrow is Father's Day, but before we can talk about that, I'd like to say that we as men have left our women to be fathers as well as mothers. So I'd like to give a huge round of applause. If the brothers in here could give a standing round of applause to all of the women in our lives who have done the job of fathers and mothers. Thank you very much. And we don't tell you enough, but from the bottom of all of our hearts, even though this is Fatherhood and Fatherhood Support Center, and tomorrow is Father's Day, we thank you, the women, for often being fathers, and even when you just have to be a mother, we couldn't be anything of consequence without women and without you all's influence on our lives. What does it take to be a father? If I consider what it takes to be a father, you first have to be what? A man. Somebody said it back then. Somebody said it. DJ, say it louder.
A man.
You first have to be a man. Not a male. Not a male. Not a biological male specimen, but what?
A man.
A man. A man. If you think back, and I'm nobody's preacher, I'm a little too foul-mouthed for that, but if you think back to the 2nd chapter of Genesis, when Adam and Eve had done what the God instructed them not to do, they ate from the tree of good, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? And what did they do when God found out that they'd eaten from this tree? They hid. They hid. And I'm reminded of that story when I consider where we are today in our communities. I was knocking door to door last week in Pine Lawn, because for the record, I'm running for state senate too, right? 14th district as well. But I'm knocking door to door last week in Pine Lawn, and I noticed that there were more people on the streets than there ordinarily were, and the mood was a little more somber than it ordinarily was. And I'm like, what's going on out here? Well, 2 hours ago, our friend Brian Brooks was killed, shot in the head at close range, right in front of his house by a 17-year-old. 2 weeks ago, my good friend Tyrone Thompson was sitting in his car out here in North County. We think we've escaped the violence when we moved to the county. That's not true. My friend Tyrone Thompson, random act of violence. Some brothers decided they wanted to go out and rob somebody. And for all the good that Tyrone's done in this community and in the life of this city, he's no longer here. Where are the men? If you look at what's happening in our community, you look at the lawlessness, you look at the proliferation of drugs and narcotics, you look at the senseless, irreconcilable violence.
Yes, sir.
You have to ask, like we have for thousands of years going back to the 2nd chapter of Genesis, where are the men? And we can talk about what we're going to do to clean up. The best of us can put our best efforts forward. But our community will shape up and we will move forward as a society when the men come out of hiding. When the men come out of hiding, and not a moment before. Halbert Sullivan came out of hiding and started the Fatherhood Support Center. He'd probably been out of hiding a long time ago, which is what caused him to start the Fatherhood Support Center. Chester Deans is a man. Chester Deans is not hiding. DJ is a man. DJ came up to Jefferson City and explained to a room full of country legislators exactly why we needed fatherhood support legislation passed. He's not a lawyer. He's not a professional public advocate. Stand up, DJ.
Stand up, DJ.
Because DJ is a man. He's told a room full of people who have no connection to the urban cause why they need to support fatherhood legislation. And those two bills passed. Two very, very important fatherhood support bills passed last year because of the work of ordinary brothers who decided to come out of hiding and be men. Now, I work in state government, and a whole lot of people ask, well, what do you plan to do to stop the violence? The people in Pine Lawn asked what we plan to do to stop the violence. And I think that's a fair question. That's something that we should all require. We should all ask leadership to stand up and be held accountable, don't you think? So I think it's a very fair question to say, what are you going to do about this? And I'll tell you what I plan to do, what I hope to do, Lord willing, we can do. We can provide job training, and we can set up an environment where companies who are going to create the jobs of the future want to come to Missouri and specifically want to come to the St. Louis region. And then we can prepare and educate our young men and women to be the recipients of those jobs once we set up the environment for those companies and those industries who have the jobs of the future to come. That's what we can do from state government. But the real answer, when people say, what are you going to do? What can you do? The real answer is, all we can do is set the plate. And beyond that, there's very little, if not nothing, that state government and your elected officials can do. Because we cannot force men to come out of hiding. There's no legislation we can pass, there's no funding we can pursue, and there's no programs that we can create to make men decide to stand up and say that we've had enough. We've had enough of the foolishness, we've had enough of the games, we've had enough of being in hiding, we've had enough of not being men. When we decide to be men, we will be the best fathers that we can be. When we decide to be fathers, we will have the best community that we can have. And I'm here to support the Fatherhood Support Center and to support each one of you all in our community as well as I can in our mission to come out of hiding, in our mission to be fathers, and in our ultimate mission to be men. When we decide that we want to be described as men, then we will move forward as a people. Thank you so much for all of your time.